Folks, Raph here with Evolution 107.9's Evo Lounge here on the YouTube channel. We're exploring a new hobby today, looking at Warhammer miniatures and wargaming in general with my new friend Kyle Bell. Let's get to it. Hi Kyle, we're here socially distanced and I'm here to learn all about getting into the miniatures and where it all starts. So, to begin with, one thing I was really curious about when I saw these coming in is that it seems like you've got the different stages of an army set up.
I actually have what I would consider to be three real different entries. First, you have like kind of the entry-level stuff, and most of these green guys. This is what I'd consider to be something that really anyone can get into because they're pretty standard, easy to work with. These blue guys all in here and the artillery are from a specialty model company that out of Australia. And then over here I got more of the fantasy stuff in kind of a mid to late stage level of doneness. And this right here is really a mix and match of about 2 or 3 different armies that I've kind of just taken bits and pieces from to kind of throw together and make it look nice.
This is all from the game called Warhammer, yes?
Yeah, mostly.
Mostly. There's other influences in here too?
Yeah, well, see, these guys right here, the blue ones, they are from a discontinued line of models from about the mid to late 90s. They don't make them anymore, but someone does, and because it was one of my personal favorite armies, I decided to, spring the extra bucks to get custom guys.
That's awesome. So these are all individually painted?
Yes.
Do they require assembly of some kinds, or how do these usually come?
They usually come basically on a plastic sprue, like they're literally just little bits of plastic on a frame. You clip and glue and paint. This is both the blessing and the curse of this. The blessing is that the assembly part of it is almost as fun as the playing of it. The downside is, and also you get to really customize it so that no matter what it is always your guys. The downside of it is it is quite a bit more difficult. If you were a kid who liked Legos, this is like Christmas.
So it's definitely, when you play the game itself, right, how many hours would you say in terms of preparing to time of actually playing?
It really depends on the individual. If you just real quick clip them out, don't really care how they look, you can knock together a nice 500-point army in about 45 to an hour, and that'll give you a nice hour-long game. Like for me, this guy, for example, took me almost 20 hours to do. Just in
terms of the detail on the paint?
Yeah. Just fine detail work and a twitchy hand means you got to restart a whole hell of a lot.
I imagine so. So, when the game is actually being played, are we talking about, is this a sort of chess-style war game where you're taking turns to move certain units of armies at a certain time? Walk us through a little bit of how...
So, the long and short of it is you and multiple other people would play a game, either 2 or above, depending on how many people. And what it is each individual unit has a stat line. This tells you how much it moves, how well it shoots, is good in melee, etc., etc., etc. And based off of that, you move your troops across the board, take objectives, do shots, and all of the models work off of a D6 roll, kind of showing how well the model engages in its actions, and that also kind of simulates the din of battle and the chaos of combat, because even the best laid plans can sometimes go awry based off of pure bad luck.
That's a 6-sided die for those of you at home. Right. So, does this come from a love of like actual wartime strategy or military history, or where does the hobby itself and the love of it, where does it all come from?
It comes from all over, and it's really based off the individual. I know people who get into this for the sheer art of building the model, and they don't play the game at all. I know people who get into it for the game and really have an army that hasn't even been painted yet. I know people who get into this for the history. Me personally, I get into it because of the lore, mainly. Like, for give you an example, your Harry Potter is 7 books, I believe. Game of Thrones is, I want to say they're at 5, going to end at 7 in like 30 years. Just one book series in this, called Gaunt's Ghost, which focuses on the regular foot slog and infantry here, is 13 books long, full regular-sized books. The probably most extreme example, and some I haven't quite gotten into yet, the Horus Heresy, is currently sitting at, I believe, 55 books long, like regular books.
That's incredible. So there's a really deep and rich culture behind this game.
Absolutely. I know people who can go into great philosophical debates about individual characters because you literally get to know them over 20 books. And I'm not talking about like snippets, I'm talking about your regular bog standard, like 5.5 print, 200 odd pages.
So for you personally,
Yes.
how did this all start?
Quite honestly, me and my dad were on vacation in the West Edmonton Mall, and I saw a little hobby shop there. Actually, I think it was an official Games Workshop branded store. We went in, and they had tables set up, and I beat my dad with orcs. Quickly, that got me into it. A little bit of reading later, I found my love in the Guard here, and I've basically been collecting it since just before high school. And
How many years would that be?
just before. So I think we're approaching 10 years now, just under. And yeah, it's a great thing to get into. Basically gives you an excuse to do nothing but sit in your room all day, puff glue and paint, and you walk out of it with something beautiful. So, you know, it's really fun for the whole family. And as I said before, this has got me into not just the playing, not just the building, but the storytelling is the real kicker. Like, that's the thing that I really find passion in this, because in this day and age of kind of, I'll say, no real subtlety, like you watch something like Star Wars and it's very much a black and white of there is absolute evil and absolute good. Warhammer is a story of endless grays. Even the most deplorable evil individual in this has a reason for being like that. Like, even something horrific is horrific for a reason, and you might not see the goodness of that reason, but you can understand why it happens.
So philosophically, this does go very deep.
Absolutely. Like, for example, and this is something that's kind of non-standard in most sci-fi or most stories in general, humanity in this is not the good guys. There would be, I'd actually go so far as to say, there are no good guys. Like, as I said before, there's just varying shades of gray. I'd say humanity is on the very lighter side of that gray, but then again, there is much different variety in humanity. It's also a universe of, how can I say, it's not so much high tech in the classic sense. It is, I'd say, mid-level tech mixed with massive scale. If I might give a basic example here, the Guard, again, my personal army, which is just average, everyday men and women fighting for the love of home. They are just average people sent against demons, aliens, monstrosities in their uncounted trillions. To do some basic math, the Imperium is said to rule over 1 million worlds. Each world, even if it's at regular world population now of, say, 7 billion, if you do an average math of 10% of the population gets conscripted, 700 million people per world, 1 million worlds, it adds up. Just the vast scale of it is what I like, because when you watch something like, say, Star Wars or Star Trek, and you hear numbers of like, it's 7 ships, it's a couple hundred soldiers, or the building blew up and 12 people died. That's unrealistic, in my opinion. In something like this, you have billions as a low number. Fleets of hundreds of ships engaging, and that's considered a skirmish. Battles where quite literally the sky is blocked out by artillery and the ground itself is ground to powder on from the rolling of tank treads, and that's considered standard. It's something where, on top of the visuals and the way it has been described in stories to me, it is some of the most visceral and gorgeous storytelling I have ever run into.
So, if someone was just starting out in this business and of getting all these minis and building their own army, what would you say was the most important thing or the simplest thing for a beginner to get started with?
The simplest thing is quite really get out there, go to your local friendly hobby shop, or look up a game on YouTube, and here's what I'd say. Go, look at what armies look interesting to you. Whether you like shooting, whether you like rushing in and hitting people, whether you like weaker models that use trickery and guile to achieve their objective. Get your top 2 or 3 that you like, go look at the models, and for around $80 to $100 you can get a Get Started box, which, for example, for the Guard, comes with 10 men, a leader, and a tank. For that, you can get in and at least get your toe in and really get a really good lifetime hobby.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for coming here and doing this. It's amazing to having you on the show.
Absolutely. I just want to get someone else into a hobby that is both rewarding and really, I'll say, at least for me personally, it is great. How can I say? It helped keep me on the straight and narrow, shall we say.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Well, there you have it, folks. Plenty of reasons to get yourself into a war game and get your own army going. If you can have your army, shouldn't you? This has been Raph from Evolution 107.9's Evo channel on YouTube. Remember to hit like, share, and subscribe, and share your passions down in the comments below. I'll see you next time.